Alright, so tonight working on the 97 Yamaha 77700 vmax SX here. Problem I was having with it, guys, is if I let this thing set for, I let it set for about a year, and before I started it up, and I noticed I had a lot of, like my oil tank here, I remember when I had oil in there, I was about right into here somewhere. And then when I got ready to get this thing back out here, we're working on it, getting it ready for winter here, I noticed my oil level had raised up quite a bit. And what happened, guys, is somehow the fuel coming out over here, there's a check valve here, and the check valve must have went bad on it, and the fuel ended up working its way back through the oil line here, I believe is what happened, and it started filling up in the oil tank here. So tonight we're putting a new check valve in it. Wanted to throw that video out there, guys, on these snowmobiles, on these two-strokers. Not sure about the four-stroke. Four-stroke's going to be a lot different. But on these two-stroke snowmobiles here, guys, when you get ready to store your snowmobile for the summer, keep an eye on wherever your oil, however much oil you have in your oil tank, and before you get ready to start it next winter or in the fall, check your, what I would do is put me a little mark. Now some guys go ahead and drain their oil, which is not a bad idea, guys. You can drain your drain the oil and just leave that empty for this for storing it, especially if you're going to be storing it, let's say a couple, 2-3 years before you get any decent snow, and maybe it might be sitting around for a couple, 2-3 years before you can get your sled back out, if you got a real bad snow condition, or you don't get much snow wherever you live. If you're going to let it set that long, I would probably go ahead and drain the oil tank out of it. Drain all the oil out of it that you can. Get you some kind of a pump. Like I got these, that pump right there, those kind of pumps. See if I can zoom that in right there. And then that, you can use one of those type of pumps and get your oil out of your tank. That way it's not, it doesn't, especially if you got a, let's say your oiler down here, your oil pump, if the seals go bad in it, your oil is going to end up filling back up in your crankcase if you let that set, for a year or so, a couple years. Especially if you notice that you do leave the oil in it, and you go to get it out whenever you get ready to get it back out, and you notice your oil tank has lost a lot of oil, you're going to find that your oil has leaked back into your crankcase, and you're going to have to get that pumped out of there. You have to get the oil pumped out of your crankcase, or get it out of there somehow. Take a bunch of rags and pull your reeds out so you can get in there and look to make sure that your crankcase is not full of oil, because then you may have some engine damage there when you get ready to fire it up. But my case is that, like I said, I pretty much remembered about where my oil was in here, and like I said, I got ready to fired up here this fall, and I noticed my oil level had raised up quite a bit. And then also when I smelled in there, I could smell fuel down in my oil tank. So there's an oil check valve. Oh, it goes right in here, and I'll show you what it looks like here in the part number for it. This is for a 97. Probably going to be the same on the 700 to 99s on up to 2001. Not sure about the older ones. This is a 97. This was the first year for this for the triple cylinder 700, I do believe. So you want to check that, guys, and make sure that you don't have a bunch of fuel mixed in with your oil tank, because then you're just going to end up ruining your motor. But here's the check valve. They're not very big. This is a check valve. This is my new one here. And I think it costs about 30-some bucks for that little check valve there. But here's the old one. And they got a little arrow on them too to let you know which way the flow goes. And this one here, guys, it's got, when I blow through it, you shouldn't be able to blow back this way through it, the opposite way of the arrow. You should not be able to blow that way, and I'm getting just a little bit of air coming through there on the back side of this, which I should not be getting. So that's why I was getting, the fuel was getting mixed in with my oil tank. And here's the part number on it. It's 8CH-1316A-00. And that's probably going to be the same for your 97 all the way up to 2001, 2002, somewhere around in there. I'm not sure exactly all years. You'd have to look up your snowmobile there on a most of my parts I get from Babbitt's out of Muskegon, Michigan. They got a whole bunch of parts there you can get on their internet, get on their website there, and they have just about any kind of part you need there for your Yamaha snowmobiles. And I'm not sure about Skidoo, Arctic Cat. They might have parts for Arctic Cats too and Skidoos. I'm not sure, and maybe Polaris. Because I just got Yamaha snowmobiles. So, anyways, guys, that check valve. So you can see the arrow here. See if that camera will focus on that arrow or not. Right there's the arrow. You want this thing to go like this right here. You want it to go in there like this, guys. You want your arrow facing toward going up here, facing toward your fuel pump here when you put that back in, guys. And see what was happening is my fuel, when I had the fuel on here, I put a fuel shutoff valve in here as well. But some reason, well, last fall I had left my fuel shutoff valve on, and it probably stored that way quite some time, and that's how I ended up getting and the check valve went bad, so it was actually letting the fuel flow back through the oil pump somehow and up through this line here, and then it started filling this oil tank up with fuel. So that's something you want to watch here when you get your sled out, your two-stroke snowmobile. Check your oil tank, guys. Make sure, try to remember where you was at on your oil level, or like I said, take a if you're going to store the oil, if you're going to leave it, if you're going to, especially on these older sleds like this, because stuff starts going bad on them. But take a little marker or something and mark out where your oil level was, and then when you get ready to get it back out next fall, check to make sure that oil is still right there at that same mark. If not, if it filled up, then you know this check valve has went bad on you, and especially if you don't have a fuel shutoff valve and that fuel runs back in there, that can, you know, cause you some major engine problems. And then also, if that goes down below your mark, that oil level, then you know your oil pump's leaking a little bit, especially if you store it all summer, and then you notice that your tank had come down a little bit on the oil, then you know your oil pump seals are leaking a little bit. The seal in the oil pump could possibly be leaking. But let's say you have this thing about 3/4 full, and then you go to get it out next fall, and you're way down into here somewhere, guys. You got a crankcase full of oil. You got oil that's went down in your crankcase, and you definitely need to get that out of there before you fire up your motor, so you don't do catastrophic damage to your motor. But yeah, it's something I wanted to throw a video out there, just to let people know on these two-stroke, especially on these older sleds. Make sure you keep an eye on your oil tank. Keep an eye on that, especially when you're leaving your snowmobile set all summer, and you want to make sure that you not getting fuel up in there, or you're not losing a bunch of oil down into your crankcase there. So hopefully that'll help somebody out there. I'm glad I caught mine before I fired it up. I ended up draining all the oil and fuel out of that oil tank. I got it all out of there. We'll get the new check valve in here, and that should take care of the problem of not having the fuel backing up back into my oil tank on this here 1997 vmax 700 here. This thing's still pretty nice shape, guys. We try to keep her in good shape. Still a really nice looking sled yet. We don't get a lot of miles on it because we don't get a whole lot of snow around the area anymore down here where I live, but we take her up into Michigan and run it up there when we get a chance to and stuff. And so it's a pretty decent looking sled yet. Nice shape for 97. It's just that you got to keep an eye on on your oil tank there, guys. Make sure that you're not losing a bunch of oil after it's set all summer. And you know, if it's lost just a little bit, you'd probably be all right. But if you lost quite a bit, I would want to check my crankcase out, make sure that the crankcase is not full of oil. And make sure that your oil tank doesn't have a bunch of fuel mixed in with the oil, because you're definitely going to have some engine problems there when you get ready to fire it up and take it down the trail there. Get down the trail a couple miles, then you lose a motor because you didn't check your remember where you had your oil stored. Like I said, some guys, I was checking on the internet there, and some people just go ahead and drain the oil out of the tank, pump the oil out of the tank, your oil tank, before they get ready to store it for the summer. That way you don't have any problems. And you know, just make sure you put your oil back in there when you get ready to fire it back up. Now on mine, I like to, when I store it, I end up putting a full tank of non-ethanol fuel in it. And I fill that clear full of fuel. And then also I got that shutoff valve like I was showing you earlier. so I can shut the fuel off. Right here, I put a shut-off valve in here, and that seems to work out pretty good, guys. I usually don't have to mess with my carburetors doing it that way, because what I'll do is fill that tank full and you know, shut my fuel off here, run the snowmobile with the choke until I make sure I get all the fuel out of the carburetors here. I got the carburetors here. And you have to take your carburetors off, guys. You'll have to take your air box out and your carburetors off in order to change that check valve, because you really can't get in there to it. Everything's in the way. I thought maybe I could do it without pulling the carburetors off, but the carburetors were kind of in the way, so I ended up just taking the carburetors off of it too, to get this check valve changed out. But like I was saying, I use a shutoff valve and then I choke it and run the snowmobile till I get all the fuel out of it. And I usually don't have any problem with the. It just takes a while to get them started. Back in the when you get into fall time or winter, I'll have to crank that thing probably. I wish they would have some kind of a primer system on them, but a guy could probably maybe put a priming system in it somehow, and that way you're getting some fuel in there faster, because it takes quite a while, quite a few cranks on the rope there to get the fuel get the fuel filled back up in the bowls of the carburetor and get them back up into the cylinders. So what I like to do, guys, is just what I usually do is take my spark plugs out, and then I'll take a little funnel and put a funnel in there and dump just a little bit of a two-stroke fuel in there. It's already oil mixed, and that helps start it a lot quicker. You get a little bit of fuel in each cylinder, and crank her over about 4 or 5 times, and you can usually get them to fire up. Otherwise, if you don't put a little fuel in there, it takes quite a few pulls on your starter rope over there to get the fuel going through the carburetors and into the cylinders again, if you got a shutoff valve on there. But it does save you from having to tear your carburetors off every fall or winter, and to go through them and clean them. I noticed that this works out really well for me, especially storing the non-ethanol fuel in there, because you can get that non-ethanol is a lot better fuel than your standard fuel that you're getting out of your regular fuel. It doesn't have that corn oil or whatever they use, the methanol stuff that they use in the fuel nowadays. Kind of after a while starts gunking up your carburetors, plugging up your carburetors and stuff. So, but the way I've been doing it, guys, it's been working out really well. Almost never have to pull my carburetors off there to clean them, doing it that way. So it's just a good way to store it for the summer. And then come fall and winter, I don't have a problem where I have to tear the carburetors off and clean them all the time. But so I just wanted to throw that video out there, guys, on that. A problem that I run into here on this sled was, like I said, the fuel was backing up into the oil tank, which I thought was kind of unusual, but that did happen. So, and it was because of this check valve. After I checked this check valve, I noticed I got a little bit of air. There's a little bit of air seeping through the wrong way there, so that check valve went bad on me. And we'll get the new one on there, and we'll get her back up and running there, guys. So I guess that's it for this video on the 97 VMAX XX700 there, triple cylinder. And hopefully we get some good snow to get this thing out this year. Last year I never even got them out last year. We didn't really have good enough snow Down here in the lower part of Michigan, we didn't have really any good snow. Really, you had to go way up north, and they even way up north didn't have a real good year. So we was unable to get them out this year. Or this last winter. Hopefully this winter we can get them out and run them a little bit. So. Anyways, guys, that'll wrap this video up on the sled there, and hopefully that'll help somebody out there. Like I said, make sure you check your oil tank there, and make sure you haven't lost a bunch of oil or you gained a bunch of fuel in the oil. So that'll wrap it up, guys, and we'll catch you all in the next video.